Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township Board of January 22nd, 2019. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Bob Tinneberry, can you open us up in prayer, please?
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this opportunity that we have to discuss the issues that affect our everyday lives. We're thankful for the men and women who have chosen to make these decisions. Father, we pray that you would give them wisdom, that you would give them courage, that you would give them just the ability to decide what is best for members in this community. And Father, we just pray that, or just say that all that's accomplished is to your glory. And we pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, first order of business is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support. Okay, motion is supported. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 3, consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file the minutes of January 8, 2019, regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, accept and place on file the general savings pooled funds and CD reports from the treasurer. C, approve and place on file the revenue expense report and balance sheet for the period ending December 31st, 2018. D, appointment of Kyle Dersch to the Bedford Board of Zoning Appeals for a first term ending 12/31/2021. E, reappointment of Nate Elarton to the Communications/Media Committee for a second term ending 12/31/21. F, reappointment of Linda Flick to the Downtown Development Authority for a second term ending 12/31/22. G, accept with regret the resignation of Sherry Victorian from the Beautification Committee, effective immediately. H, reappointment of Al Pryor to the Lewis Avenue Redevelopment Committee for a second term ending 12/31/2020. For a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Motion is supported. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 4, presentations. A, 2018 Bedford Township Sheriff's Deputy of the Year, Deputy Mary Lindsay.
We have a resolution to present to Mary. Whereas Deputy Mary Lindsay, a Monroe County Deputy Sheriff, is assigned to the Bedford Township Substation of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, and whereas the Bedford Township Board, on behalf of the citizens of Bedford Township, deeply and sincerely appreciate the effort of Deputy Mary Lindsay, who in cooperation with other members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department is actively engaged in searching out and finding criminals who prey upon the citizens of Bedford Township, and who consistently works to assure the community is safe and secure. And whereas Deputy Mary Lindsay, a 1989 Bedford High School graduate and 2004 Bedford High School Hall of Fame inductee, enrolled all region honors in basketball, volleyball, and softball, and all state honors in volleyball, who on a volleyball scholarship attended Grand Valley State University, earning a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and completing their police academy in 1994. Whereas she has served the Monroe County Sheriff's Office since 1995, serving in several positions including DARE officer, Youth Bureau detective, and Bedford Junior High School resource officer. Whereas Deputy Mary Lindsay has the seniority to work anywhere in the county, however, she has chosen every year to work in Bedford Township, where she strives to provide the highest level of police service to the citizens of Bedford Township. Now therefore be it resolved that upon review and consideration and with deep appreciation from and on behalf of the citizens of Bedford Township, the Bedford Township Board hereby designates Deputy Mary Lindsay as Bedford Township Sheriff's Deputy of the Year and declares January 22nd, 2019 as Deputy Mary Lindsay Day in Bedford Township and granting all rights, prerogatives, and privileges attendant thereto. Congratulations.
Sarge, you want to take a picture of us? Squeeze in here, Miss Tinneberry. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's hot up here, isn't
It
it?
is. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I love this community, so thank you.
Mary, if you have anything you'd like to share before you leave, you're more than welcome.
Well, let's see. I might be going someplace after this. If anybody wants to join.
Very cool. Where are we going?
Not sure yet. Where you guys want to go? Doolittles, maybe?
Well, we appreciate your service, and we really
No.
do enjoy you here, so
I
thank you.
appreciate it. I love working for
Yeah.
the township. You guys are great, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4B, introduction of Caitlin Ruppel, Housing Commission Executive Director. Come on up.
Hi, everyone.
So how's the job going?
It's going great. It's an honor to be in Bedford Township. I'm originally from Sylvania Township in Ohio. And it's just a pleasure working with everybody here. It's been fantastic. Training with Sue and Leanne has been great, and hopefully it'll continue that way for a very long time.
Well, very cool. We're glad to have you here. Anybody have any questions for her? I mean,
I
No.
just asked Caitlin to come so everyone could put a face to the name since she is new.
Congratulations for leaving the dark state, coming to the bright state.
Right. We're a house divided, so yes.
well, if nobody has any questions for the center, we thank you very much for being here. It's nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, item 5 is public comment. Comments limited to 2 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. Congratulations to Deputy Mary Lindsay on her award tonight. 23 years of service is a long time for Monroe County, so we thank her for that. I know what it's like to serve, and I've been in Monroe County serving, so I know it's not an easy job to be in this county. Secondly, I want to say to the board, thank you for the plow truck. I know we had some discussion about that before, but on Saturday when the snow was really bad, the street on my street was really terrible. I even got stuck right in front of my own house and stuff like that. And around 9:30, 10 o'clock, the plow came down. And he did really a professional job of getting that street open so that the next day we could get out. And he was very cautious about doing what he did. There were cars parked on the street. He was very cognizant of those things. So I want to say thank you to you and to the township for getting that open, because I know it would have been a long time before the county would get down here if they ever would. So I want to thank you for that. Also, tonight I brought before the township. I did a yearly survey on the contract. It's got the names of every officer that worked in Bedford Township during the year 2018. The ones with the asterisk next to it were the ones that were told to us that were contract deputies back in 2017 when we asked them questions about who was working in contract. You'll also see that there's some extra numbers there. And I'll explain that in a 5-minute talk and stuff. I don't want to do that now. It's too time consuming, but I'll explain it later on. So that's for your information only. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, moving on to staff reports. 6A, request for approval to purchase a set of Hurst hydraulic extrication tool from Apollo Fire Equipment Company for $30,275. Chief Mastingill, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. So these are a set of extrication tools to replace our 30-year-old equipment. We've talked about this numerous times over the past couple of years. We laid out a 10-year equipment replacement plan in conjunction with the apparatus and equipment millage. And through the last summer, I think some of you stopped out when we were reviewing different tools, different brands, and different manufacturers. Ultimately, the consensus was the Hearst were the tools that we felt gave us the best value and provided the best, delivered the best service. So we recommend that. This is the price that we have here is for the only distributor that's allowed to sell them. So he represents our area.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Chief? Ms. Tinderberry?
I'd like to move that we approve the request for the Hearst hydraulic equipment as listed on the proposal from Apollo Fire Equipment Company for $30,275.
A second.
Okay, motion supported, discussion?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Peroni.
Yeah.
Chief, you know, you said some of us did come out, and I was out there, and after a lot of coaxing, your guys finally got me into uniform and everything, and I'll tell you what, the difference between the equipment that you have that's old versus this new, I don't care whether you're somebody that's 5'4" and 130 pounds, or whether you're 6'4" and 230 pounds. That equipment, some of the old stuff, trying to lug that around an emergency scene, it's unfathomable sometimes what is required to do that. And like the one you had where the hydraulic unit was a separate unit, took two guys. If you had a car that rolled over a ditch out into a small field or something, two guys doing that, another guy trying to get equipment to the scene, almost impossible. With one of these, you got one person heading right to that vehicle. In my mind, this was a no-brainer and a wise investment, and you've done well with your research, and also comparing that you bought some used equipment that got us through for a while too, which is still going to stay in service. So
Correct.
Good job there.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Tinderberry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Francis? Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 6B, request for approval to purchase a 2019 Ford F-350 vehicle through MDeal, MyDeal, state bidding program for $36,220. Chief?
Yeah, this is to replace the brush truck, the 23-year-old brush truck that we had recently sold. We knew that we still needed to maintain two brush trucks in the township, and though that older truck had become a liability to us, it's important that we, if we're going to continue with two brush trucks, that we get it ordered now so that we have it in time for the summer season and get it in service. We'll have to outfit and equip the truck just as we have the pickup truck that we have up at Station 1 right now. So we've got some more bids coming, but to place the order so that we have it in time is kind of the key to this request now.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Tinderberry?
My question is, your letter on the front says for a price of $36,220, but I don't see that added up on the back. Could you tell me what that includes?
The recommended options, short of the lighting package, is
And
not
that-
necessary because we'll do our own outfitting of the lighting for it. So
You mean you have to buy that separately, and
that's correct. This would be like a municipal safety package. So it's got an amber LED light. We use the red lights and the siren and things like that. So
where would you order those from?
we'll bid those out and we'll bring that back to you as well.
Okay.
So we'll have that, and we'll have the skid unit, which is a water pumping unit in the back. So we'll have some further requests, but being that the lead time is so far out, and being that it's under the state bidding program, we wanted to get it to you so that we could hopefully move forward with it.
Okay, I look for a motion.
I'll make the motion. Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion to approve the request to purchase a 2019 F-350 vehicle through the Michigan Deal State Bidding Program for $36,220 via the estimate provided by Gorno Ford and delivered to this board in this package.
Motion is supported by Mr. Francis. Discussion?
I guess the only thing I would, just for like clarification, that both of these last two are coming out of the recent millage, is where, like, where those funds are coming from, just to have that be clarified. That's all I had.
This is true.
Correct.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clements?
Aye.
Mr. Francis? Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Number 7, old business, a request for approval of the Bedford Township Fire Department full-time employee policy manual. Mr. Goldsmith?
You have before you a proposed policy manual for our full-time firefighters. Chief Massengill and I worked on this together. He has reviewed it. He tells me he finds it to be acceptable. There's quite a few changes that I made to the original document that was presented to us. The original document, in part, was prepared for a department that operates under a collective bargaining agreement, which we don't with our full-time firefighters. But it incorporates the information that Chief Massengill thought would be appropriate and fair for the full-time firefighters. And at the same time, the Township Personnel Manual would apply to them in items that are not in conflict with this policy, and also the Fire Department Administrative Policy Manual that applies to all firefighters, including our part-time or paid on-call volunteer firefighters, would apply to the full-time firefighters. I would state this, that, and the chief and I talked briefly about this, I would recommend that you allow our Labor Council to take a once-over of my work and make sure that, that in his view, that it complies with all the requirements that he would want to see. I think it is in good form, but based on my work, but it wouldn't hurt to have another set of eyes take a quick look at it. You'll note also within this document, there are wage specifications with increases and the like, so hopefully you've had time to take a look at that and digest that, because if and when you approve this, you will be approving the step increases for wages for our full-time firefighters, full-time officers, the fire inspector, and the like.
Is there any reason to believe we should question it? I mean, did you go through this, or did we pull this from another township, or?
This was presented by Chief Massengill, so I took that as a working document,
Okay.
but I made a lot of changes to it to fit our situation.
Okay, and where did you get it?
We utilize another fire department that has, as he said, it was a collective bargaining
So
agreement.
they had a union labor attorney go over it as well.
I believe so.
And and the changes you made, is there any reason to believe that we should question those?
Well, I don't think there's any reason to question them. I added things that I wanted in there that are in our other policies, such as we make it clear that the firefighters are operating under an at-will appointment status or employment status, answerable to the Township Board. The board hires and discharges employees, including the full-time firefighters. So things of that nature were incorporated in there. The wage specifications were specific to our department. But that's,
I mean, it's gonna cost us a decent amount of money to have our labor attorney do a once-over on this. But it would be a lot better to have him look at it than run into an issue, because that'll cost us a lot more money in the end.
it
but
would be my recommendation, and quite frankly, Phil Nance and I have worked together very well for years and years and years. And we communicate well with each other. So it would be my recommendation to take the time to do that before the board adopts it.
Okay, Ms. Tenenberry?
Yeah, I'm the one that made the motion to bypass Phil Nance and go with Phil. But after so doing, I talked to some other people. You know, with all due respect to Phil, and he said this himself, he's not a labor attorney. He's not sought out by companies to handle their labor negotiations and things like that. He's a wonderful township attorney in all respects, but I would, at this point, concur as a trustee with Phil Goldsmith that Phil Nance should at least look it over for any things that we or Phil may not have seen with regard to labor conflicts or those kinds of things that we need to maybe pin down a little bit better.
So I don't think he needs, I mean, if he's just gonna be reading through it, I don't think it'd be him tearing it apart, more or less. So, I mean, Chief, you okay with having him take a look at it, or?
At the board's pleasure, it's
Okay.
complete.
Doesn't matter if you like it or not.
I have a
I would have
So-
sent it to him in advance, but I didn't want to overstep my bounds, and I wanted the board to make that decision and to approve it if you so decided to do that.
I meant was, do you want me to call him, or you wanna send it to him? But
Oh,
Phil-
I'll send
I
it
think
to
Phil
him.
should do it.
I'll
Phil handle it?
transmit it to him via email tomorrow morning.
Okay.
If the
Let him
board,
know,
if
let
the
him
board
know.
directs me to do that.
1 hour minimum,
You mean maximum?
maximum, sorry, thank you, you're good.
He may have to spend a little more time than that, but I think it will be money well spent and
Yeah.
very reasonable. And as labor attorneys go, and with the experience that he has, I can tell you that he is a bargain.
Okay. All right, any more comments or questions, Mr. Steiner?
Just a quick couple comments here. Chief or Mr. Goldsmith. Page 5, item number 3. At the very bottom, in the last sentence, it starts off by saying, employees that do not successfully complete the certification, recertification, licensure, or relicensure will be required to reimburse the fire department the cost of the course. And similar, page 15, section D, if a probationary employee does not complete probationary period, so on, that they'll have to return all of the equipment that was assigned by the township. My question is, and we've talked about this in the past because we've seen it happen, I didn't see, or I missed it by reading through this. Is there anything in here that says if one of these guys is here, guys or ladies, are here a year and they walk, any kind of ramifications or reimbursement? I mean, sometimes, you know, we've had it where people have come to Bedford, they got the skills, and they go take off, and we're stuck with that cost that we put out.
If they, Chief, I'll take the lead and then you can fill in. If they successfully complete training that the township provides for them, there will be no requirement to reimburse the township for that. When a firefighter terminates his relationship or her relationship with the Bedford Township Fire Department, they are required, and the chief requires them to turn in all their gear. And the chief can add to that or subtract to that as may be protocol with the department.
Chief, what do you have roughly invested in somebody after the probationary period?
The equipment, with their equipment and everything, we figure to outfit a firefighter costs about $10,000.
Outside of the equipment, because they have to give it back.
We'd have the cost of the courses, the time that was spent. My understanding, although wouldn't want to pretend to be an expert, but my understanding and explanation was that once they complete the courses, if they choose to leave, that's been challenged before. Trying to get reimbursement's been challenged and been unsuccessful, but I'm no expert in that. I would have to.
You would have to have a contractual relationship requiring reimbursement. Usually it's done on a pro rata basis. But if there's no contractual relationship with respect to that subject matter, it's something that cannot be sought and obtained. And probably, even though there is significant resources, township resources placed into training, it's it's necessary because they can't operate legally without that training. And it's not as much as if, for instance, a small township or a township with a small police department that may send an officer through MCOL's training. That's a pretty sizable investment. I've seen it done sometimes in that context, where there's a requirement to reimburse within a certain number of years or months if that officer chooses to leave the employ of that police department. But I don't think it really would be something you would want to do in the context of our fire department.
That's all I have.
Okay. Any more comments or questions? Ms. Hirschberger?
Adam, you had spoke to me about wages. Are you still looking for that?
If this is going to be reviewed, or if the board's pleasure, if they want to address the wages only because the rest of the township wages are being addressed, I believe, the beginning of February, it may simplify things for the finance department to be able to address those. If even that specific section of this is acceptable tonight, if it's not, then clearly can be addressed at a later time, but I didn't know if the board wanted to entertain action on just the wage section. I think starts on page 3, section A for rates.
I have a question.
Mr. Burns?
Ms. Tinneberry? Darren's reading.
That's okay. For my indication of this wage scale table, the only one that would be affected immediately is the fire inspector, is that correct?
Correct, and this will also provide some clarification because the handling of this in the 6-month probationary period is not in line with the rest of the township would be doing. So if we were to follow the existing policy manual with regard to wages, then one might argue, in the absence of this package being adopted, that our new firefighters that started in November were due wage increases in February with the rest of the township. So that's kind of, for clarification purposes, Mr. Manning had asked how it was going to be addressed, and I told him that we would discuss it tonight, or the board would discuss it tonight, and hopefully provide some form of direction on that.
But you're recommending this table be adapted with the whole policy, and we go from here forward?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
And if you're going to do that, to follow on page 4, there's language regarding stipends too. And did you want to address that tonight, Chief?
Yeah, in the same manner, and we thought it would be prudent in this case, especially with our full-time firefighters, to address classifications and ranks as a stipend rather than, especially for certifications as well, rather than with a raise. Thereby, there's a requirement to maintain those certifications. It simplifies the wage scale so that we don't have for each classification 3 or 4 different separate lines in which you're talking about, well, if they have this certification and not the other one, and vice versa. We discussed and thought it would be best to address them in stipends just to clean up the wage scale as well as encourage the firefighters to continue with their certifications.
And a stipend is a one-time lump sum?
Correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Steiner?
Just one other question, Chief. On page 3, you've got the wage scale table. Are you saying that that's what you're currently using from 2018, or does that need to be changed to 2019 within this document?
It would need to be changed to 2019 within the document. When we developed this was
Okay.
2018, yes.
Yeah, I'll make that change before it's transmitted to Mr. Nance for his review.
Just on the stipend, Nancy just asked if that was a one-time payment, and it reads
Annually.
that it's per year.
Well, I mean, it's not included in the wages and broken up over the year for 2000. It's a $2,000 payment.
But it's a
one-time
reoccurring,
annual.
Yeah.
stipend.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I realize it's every year, but I just wanted to make sure that that was like a bonus.
Provided,
don't get-
provided that they maintain their certification,
Right.
correct, Chief?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna do this crazy radical thought of make a motion so we can actually have discussion on a actual motion on the table. My motion would be that we, as a board, accept Section A titled Wages, both Sections A and B, from the Bedford Township Fire Department Full-Time Employee Policy Manual as presented in tonight's board package, to be implemented effective immediately.
Wait a minute, are you just asking for a motion to approve the rates? Or the whole employee policy manual?
Nope, just
A and B.
Just the section, Sections A and B of Section A wages, not the entire policy, just the wage section.
Can I ask for clarification of why?
Well, we got to send it to the labor.
Because the rest of it should be reviewed by a labor attorney.
Okay.
And there's people that are
I
waiting
see
for
a
the
different
raises.
motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just,
It does two things. It clears up what can only be argued as a bit of a mess
I
from a
gotcha.
payment standpoint in the fire department. It also, I think, clears up some issues with regard to the employees that were hired in November, and will make it cleaner. It also, I think, will help us with our budget work going forward.
support.
Thank you.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Tinneberry. Discussion? I was just gonna say, could we make a motion contingent upon him looking at it?
That's what I thought was gonna happen, but
You know, we could do that too.
Well,
And if
it's
he
too
doesn't
late.
find anything, it's,
too late, there's a motion on the floor.
any
So,
more
well, for
comments?
discussion, I guess, like, just the wages in and of themselves, I was curious of, like, where do those come from?
That's a question that would be best directed to the chief.
So that was based on the SAFER grant, when we hired for the positions with the SAFER grant. And then it was based on what Mr. Manning anticipated would be the annual review for all of the employees. I understand it's about a 2% increase each year.
Which is, I think that's like township,
Yes.
that's what it is. That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
we attempted as much as we could to line up where there were differences, to line up with the township's policy manual, so that there was some continuity between the documents. That's one area where we tried to make sure that everything aligned.
Okay. Yeah, I was just like, I was curious to hear discussion of like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Of like, how do you even, I think there's a lot of money tied up in this whole document. That there's a lot of money, just different things altogether that I was interested in, like, board discussion. It's like,
Get used to it.
it's a hard thing to like quantify. So that's why I was like curious of how you look at that.
Well, do we have any more discussion on it?
I got a question.
Mr. Francis?
If we put this in as a policy, and let's say 2 or 3 years down the road, we're in financial stakes because of loss of revenue from revenue sharing or whatever, we think we can't afford a 2% cost of living raise as we've done in the last few years, doesn't this force us to pay the firefighters, and then they would not be receiving the same as the other employees?
The
I don't have
fire,
a problem with the 2%, but at some point in time, we might not be able to afford that for everyone.
sure. And because of their at-will employment status, it can be amended. It's not a collective bargaining agreement that's subject, that can only be done with a letter of understanding or something of that nature, or through collective bargaining. The board can amend the policy if the financial situation of the township is such that it needs to be amended.
Is that something you can ask,
Yeah, I'm very confident of
Ask
that,
Phil
but I
Nance
will
about
ask,
adding in
I'll
there.
review that with Phil.
that we have the option or something?
Yes, sure.
Is that, any more discussion?
Yeah, my other question would be, kind of going along with that, is this, how this is written up, is that forever? Like that is, how this is written, does that stop at year 4, or
Chief?
like as written as the document?
When we developed this and developed the scale, it was partly to help us understand as well, being the township leadership, because remember, this is a grant. These firefighters were hired in under a grant. So we would, if adopted, we're able to also use this chart to project out that 4th year, what it would cost us should the board choose to maintain those positions, because those positions are only funded for 3 years under the federal grant that we've received. Simply put, we can do the math to look at it at year 4 under the projected wage increases that the township gives to all the employees. This is what we would be facing without a federal match. So that was why we laid it out for 4 years, to try and give us the ability to do some forward thinking and forward planning.
Because it's a grant, the entire thing is going to come back up for review ultimately.
At that point.
Exactly.
And this, as the chief states, goes out for 4 years, so depending on the economic situation of the township after the grant is over, this section of the policy more than likely will need to be amended. We'll have to revisit it at that time to see where we're at financially, how it's working, and whether there will be a continuation. All those factors will come into play.
Any more discussion? I'll look for,
And the board at the next meeting could unadopt the policy,
They
as they
could.
can in any case, which
could.
makes it a little,
It could, yes.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Chief.
Do we table the rest?
And that was to set in
I didn't-
place,
Mr. Supervisor, do we
A
need
and
to,
B.
Table
to
two,
table
didn't
for the record the rest of the policy? We never really dealt with it.
I thought of that when we started calling the roll.
Just,
Cinderberry, do we need to table that? I mean, it,
Yeah.
Why-
To address the rest.
why don't you consider making a motion to authorize me to consult with Labor Counsel Philip Nance, have him do a review of this and report back to the board?
so move,
Support.
so your motion, Mr. Francis?
yes.
Can I just add ask for a friendly amendment that there be a timetable at least before the end of February, because Phil Nance might be real busy, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would be reasonable by the end of February.
Yeah.
It's here, so, and he'll look at it, and I have the other documents that he'll cross-reference it against as I did, so
Okay.
I'll email all of that to him.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis?
Aye,
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 8, new business. A, request for approval of vouchers of payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $67,807.99. Fire District, $24,926.14. Police Fund, $882.86. Park Fund, $2,797.22. Library Fund, $5,182.71. Water Revenue Fund, $3,125. Lewiston Estates SAD, $5,424.93. Downtown Development Authority, $1,094. Sewer O&M Fund, $425,863.92. Trust and Agency Fund, $1,519, for a grand total of $538,623.77.
support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Francis. Discussion?
Just one comment. The reason the sewer O&M fund is so high this time is we've got one of our bi-monthly operating bills from the Drain Commission for $408,320. That's included in that $425. That's why it's so high.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, request for approval to convert a part-time assessing department position to a full-time position. Mr. Matlow, come on up. As you all know, other than Mr. Montry, we've been, well, he knows too now, we've been working for a long time on putting together a lot of information to prove the need in the assessing department. We offered ride-alongs, a lot of people took us up on that. And we've got a crew in here right now that works really well together. They get a lot done. We're working towards ultimately the 20%, I believe, within this position by making it full-time. very close to it. I think in the 15 to 18% range. Teresa's been a great temporary employee. We would love to make her part of the team, and I believe in order to keep long-time employees here at the township, for one, you got to pay them, and sometimes you got to make them full-time, especially some of these critical positions. So, in that, Alan, go ahead.
We've done a swap analysis, weaknesses and strengths. We brought a couple packages to the Township Board. They had some comments and concerns. We went back. We have done the, excuse me, the ride-along effort, or the ride-along come through the office. We had a good response for that. Would have liked to have a little bit better, but because of the time frame of the year and the weather conditions and other things that take place, we're going to leave that as an open door. So if later in the year you want to come through, by all means do. As far as stewardship and due diligence, the board has all has participated in this and their concerns. And as a resident and as a taxpayer and a voter, thank you all, because you're doing your job and the voters should be pleased with what you're doing. I was at a meeting today. It was put on by the State Tax Commission. The legislation that has passed is currently being reviewed, and is what was told to me by a long-term State Tax Commission individual who is retiring. Assessing is not going away. In fact, we are probably going to need more assessors because of the complexity that is being developed or now being put into place. Moving back to the ride-alongs, Mr. T.C. Clemens brought his son along, which I greatly applaud that, because so many of the young individuals don't get a good feel of what's going on in government or showing an interest. When his son came into my office, he actually rolled up a chair and sat down and, let's go to work. Let's see what's going on here. That's good to see the youth stepping up. We appreciate everybody that came along. By all means, like I said, you're more than welcome to come in at any time. But Teresa has been in our department since about August, the 1st of September. She comes in, she goes to work, and she takes on pretty much anything we throw at her. We are using her a little bit different than putting her out in the field every day. She's doing a lot of the preliminary stuff that allows us to turn this over to the next individual who will be coming up here shortly, so that we can utilize him to a more maximum position out in the field.
Because she is doing a lot of field work. She's just not in the field.
Not physically in the field itself, with some of the newer tools that we are allowed to use and are taking advantage of, so it's making us more efficient there. She is going to be assisting much more into the land division stuff as well. She's a good fit with a group of individuals we have. We have some very, very good people right now. We are moving along, and we are trying to pursue what we need to get done. It's not an easy job, by no means.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Matlow? Mr. Francis?
Speaking of in the field work, is there any equipment that you could utilize that would make that more efficient? As far as measuring the size of the buildings and the like, can it be not scanned, but can there be some digital equipment to?
We've started looking into that earlier in the year.
We've talked before about it.
We have talked about that. On the Monroe County's Assessors Association luncheon on Thursday, there's a group that's coming in called Pivot, I believe, that has a program that allows you to do actually on a tablet field drawings in the field. That's something that we have been lacking for a very long time. We've looked at some things through BS&A. It's getting the right equipment, because each kind of has their own little proprietary piece of equipment they want to use. By all means, we are looking at some of the newer digital measuring equipment, and we're hoping to take advantage of that where we can. So we're in the early stages of that. This last week, Paul brought in, we upgraded one of our phones, not both, because we are looking at some of this newer technologies that we've already got out in the field. It's the iPhone. So,
because I think we ought to supply you with the best that we can to make you more efficient.
True.
Because that's an important function of that department, I guess, is to get those valuations properly done, and we need to provide you with the tools to do that.
Correct. The one key.
We're constantly talking about that.
We are,
You know, I mean-
it's a struggle, because we do train new people and they do leave. It is a demanding job, it is a physical job. You have to have your head, you have to have a head on, out in the field. It's different than in the office, and you come up with circumstances that just flabbergast you sometimes.
Yeah, but part of keeping people here is making your work environment enjoyable,
Right.
Treating people right, and people will stay.
Right, right.
So, anybody else have any questions for Mr.
And we
Matlow?
know that Monroe County has a problem with compensation because no one in Monroe County pays what they do north of us. We've had a lot of experience in people staying here for a while and then moving on for additional compensation up north. Some of it's $20,000 a year difference. I can understand why people would move. We just need to be aware of that and train our people and treat them right, and hopefully we won't be a source of exodus of employees because of that.
Anybody else have any questions for Alan?
I don't have any questions, but I have a comment. I just want to thank you and your staff for, I was going to say putting up with the board, but that's your job, so I'm not going to say it that way, for listening to the board and pursuing this endeavor, pursuing all of the background and extra work that you had to do to maybe help train the board, but I think more so to have your department run efficiently, not have people coming and going, but people coming and staying because they want to be there. I'm just thankful that our request several months ago has produced this and this ability to hire people that will be willing to do all the work that's necessary to get done in order for the AMAR to come through with flying colors, and I'm sure that it will. I'm sure that you'll get the A+ or whatever it is that they give out because of the effort that's been put into it. So as a board member, and I know we put you through a lot, you and your whole department, but I appreciate that, and I've seen it culminating in some very good things, so I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
For
And
putting
just,
up.
and just to add to Teresa, she has worked already in the treasurer's department, and if, they're not swamped and they need somebody, she's able to do that.
Can she work in the supervisor's department if she's able?
I don't.
Thank you.
And just for the record, the funds are there for this fiscal year. If we did hire the full-time position, there would be roughly $12,239 remaining in the fund balance for this fiscal year. So that was a question from a lot of members, are the funds available? So if nobody has any further comments or questions, I look for a motion.
Well, I'm just not sure. Is this motion to hire the full-time person?
Yeah.
Okay, so moved.
I'll support.
Okay, motion is supported. Discussion?
Well, I'd like the clerk to put in the full thing, what the pay is, and I didn't say all that, but that's in my motion. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no discussion, Paul, you got any?
Yeah, I would want to, just like, I don't know if I had more
You can have
questions
as
for.
much discussion and questions right now.
Well, that's what, so like, I was quoted, because we're around 10% of our, like, state mandated, what we're trying to shoot for. We're at 10%, shooting for 20. That this would bring us closer to 18 by adding Teresa as full-time. I just don't know how. I guess would be my question. Like,
I asked Christine that today, and that was kind of I asked her for a guesstimate of if we do this full-time, where percentage-wise does that get us?
But can I just comment? The 20% is over 5 years. It's not 20% every year.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
20%.
5 years equals
It's-
100%.
100%, yeah. Yeah, the recommendation is 20% every year. Is every
Which
year. It's not only residential, but it's also industrial and commercial and agricultural.
That theoretically gives you 5 years to hit 100% of your township.
It's really simple math, you know? I'm just kidding, Nancy. I owed you one.
I'm checking
But the
it out.
problem is, if we don't do that, the state can come in and force,
Well, that's,
Us
I
to
guess that's
change.
what,
We don't want that.
exactly.
As long as you're working towards compliance. If you're consistently hitting 5% and you have no means to, that's when you get in trouble. But we're consistently working towards the 20%.
One of the big key things right now is having individuals here and in their seat and doing. And that's one of the big pluses we have. We have people that are doing. And sometimes it's tough. Okay, what now more can we give you? Because you don't expect it.
Yeah.
We've had some of that flow issue over the years. And so.
Craig, do you have any more questions?
Well, I mean, yeah, not necessarily like, it's just for discussion purposes, like exactly what Paul's saying is what we're trying to do is hit that so you can hit what the state is mandating, so you don't have them breathing down your neck. What difference is this gonna make, in your opinion, like that this is what we need, correct?
Yeah, this is where we're trying to bring in the individual to accelerate up towards that point. Is this going to hammer the 20% right now? Probably not, but it's going to give us a closer number, a closer feel. There's technologies that we're trying to bring in to improve that as well, use of new technologies. This gives myself and Christine a little more time to go focus on some of these other areas that need to be addressed as well. We do have to cross our Ts and dot our Is. Like the meeting I was at today, the complexity is hairier coming down the road. We don't want to lose control of our jurisdiction. We do not want that. And that's what we are trying to make sure that we do our stewardship for the township and keep it here. You're going to see some things coming down the road from some of these other communities. Maybe a couple years, but with what the information they shared with me today in this meeting, as a taxpayer in a community that's doing their due diligence to the best of their ability, we got some deadwood in this state, and we're carrying them, and that's not fair. And I don't like saying that, but it's true.
Well, I guess that goes to my, like, we want to accomplish our goal, we want to do what we're trying to do, and I'm just, is this the investment that's going to make because effectively, this would be adding Teresa one more day a week, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the solution to our issue?
No. But
And that, you know what I mean? That's why I'm like,
it brings us closer. The solution to get us to 20% was bringing 2 people in the field that are going to be dedicated to the field every day. That gets us potentially to our 20%.
Closer, yeah.
Right now, with what we're doing, we're going to get our feet wet. We're going to work it for a while and see how it goes. And, you know, if we come back in a year and we say, hey, we need to put somebody on temporarily or seasonally to hit that 20, if we're close, then we'll talk about it then.
Well, and
this is going to get us closer and make our team solid.
just from my time in the assessing department, that's just what I saw that as the thing that would bring us closer is a second Pete.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective was that was the need that I saw. So that's why I'm like, I didn't see one more day, so that's why I'm asking these questions and just kind of like.
No, it's a good question.
Voicing why I'm saying this. It's not that I'm against this as much as I didn't see that as the solution. As much as I saw maybe having a second Pete out there based off of the numbers from last year, when there was 2 people in the field, all of that was, I don't know that this is the solution that I would, the way I would direct it.
Yeah, but just keep in mind that Teresa does a lot of field work, and this gives her more time to do more field work. because a lot of what she does is basically field work. She's on Google Maps telling Pete, hey, there's no changes in this house, or if there is, she's giving it to Pete, going out there, saving him a ton of time. So, I mean, having her in there more is only gonna get us closer. And we'll report back in 6, 8 months, and we'll go from there.
We're not trying to
Ms. Tinneberry?
overrun what we're capable of doing. We want a quality work. That's one of the keys with the state. And this is giving us a better chance to get all these other pieces in place that have been kind of pushed to one side because we haven't had the individuals to be as sharp as we need to be. Some of the newer technologies that the state want us to see, we've got to develop those and get up to that level. But like Paul says, we probably are gonna come back. We would love to have another Pete. Finding those individuals, it can be quite rigorous doing this day in and day out. It can be quite physically demanding and challenging. But right now,
Ms. Tinneberry, you had a question?
That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that it's, the quality work is more important than the quantity. Okay, I was wrong about the 20%, but is it not a recommendation? It's not a mandate.
it's not a mandate.
It's
If
a
it-
recommendation, so, and I don't know anybody in the county that I've talked to that ever gets 20%, because 20% is a very expensive endeavor.
But keep in
and not
mind the
everyone
how-
can. But I think we need to realize that we're working towards a better number than we've had, and nobody's gonna come down and take over the thing for 18%.
No, and keep in mind though, without hitting close to that 20%, say we're only hitting 10%, think of all the sheds, the additions, the patios, the decks that we're missing that aren't being taxed
Right,
too.
I get that, I'm just saying we shouldn't be fearful.
No, I don't think we're
because-
fearful. I'm more concerned about having a solid team.
Yeah, I know.
Since being a trustee and supervisor, I've seen more changes in that department than,
I
you know,
agree.
it's been nuts. So that's been the important thing for me is getting Alan a team that actually, you know, is a little solid in there. I mean,
Well, all I'm saying is let's start with this.
yeah,
and-
let's start with this.
And then we'll
report
see
back.
what it provides.
Mr. Steiner?
So we've got two different things on the table tonight. There's this one, then we've got another one for another field position change.
Correct.
So we're hearing this number 18% at this point. How much more does the next one that we're going to be reviewing in a second, how much more does that get you to your percentage?
He's already here.
He's already here.
So this is just changing.
He's a
his title.
seasonal to part-time.
Yeah.
Okay, but.
That's it.
So that's all? Okay. And I'm just make a comment, this is not derogatory toward you or anybody else, Ellen. Perception sometimes can be everything to some people, but it's not always everything. I have talked to a number of people and just comments, and I'm glad you brought something up tonight because there's been talk about people, they don't seem to get out to the field, even though they're supposed to be in the field. You know, consistent chatter in the office sometimes, and, you know, if they're on a break, they're on a break, but maybe sometimes if they do that, go somewhere else to do their breaks, whatever, because perception can be everything to some. But the one thing you mentioned about the field, and you were talking about that Teresa does field work from inside this building. And when most people hear the word field work, they're gonna see and think that person needs to be outside this building, out there in the field. So I'm glad that part of it came up tonight, because not everybody would understand it that way. So just keep those things in mind, and one of the things that you and I talked about with your team earlier on, well, I should say later last year, some of those tracking reports, as you continue to come to the board for needs, those things need to be there for us, so we can see those numbers and tell us what you're doing and tell us what you're not getting to and why you're not getting to those. If you need more help, you know, again, you know my time's limited, so I can do so much, but some of those tables and charts that I started to help you with, if you need to tweak them, let me know that as well. I was gonna try to come take a ride along as well, to be outside in the field. but my schedule toward the end of last year and the beginning of this year took me out of the country a few times unexpectedly, so sort of limited to me what I was able to do.
We have an open invitation, so come this spring, by all means.
Any further discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Nay.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-1. Item 8C, request for approval to convert a temporary part-time fieldwork position to a part-time position in the assessing department. Like I said earlier, Pete's been with the assessing department for 5, 6 months, something like that? 7 months? Well, long time. But he's been seasonal. We want to bring him part-time, so we could, make him part of the team as well. We don't just want to keep seasonal people around, just to keep seasonal people around. So, Mr. Matlow, if you have anything else you want to add?
Pete came in kind of at a drop of a notice, kind of stumbled on it altogether. Josh, who was here, was married, had other opportunities that opened up for him. Was a good person. We actually were trying to pursue him to stay in the field or stay here. But Pete came on with his background in education and education administration, and Pete has been a very, very phenomenal individual to have in the office. He comes with a lot of experience. He's very open with positive, I'm going blank, trying to blank. Criticism, that's what, it's not it's not a criticism. It's to improvement.
Well, not really knowing the job till I got here, I realized how important it is to have somebody like Pete doing our field work. That honestly is likable. I mean, look at that sweater. I mean, that sweater, you feel comfortable when you see him out in the field. Nobody's going to want to go after poor Pete, so he's a good guy to have in the field. But that for me is, you're going to somebody's doorstep wanting to measure the property, and that it's an important position.
Because he wears a sweater?
Well, look at it. Can't get upset with that. You don't look threatening. I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't
Mr.
like you in
Super.
my house because you have a mustache, I'm sorry.
Mr. Steiner?
Just kidding.
Mr. Batlow, what does this do to your budget? I don't see any numbers.
Where we stand right now, we still have approximately a surplus. I believe just a little over $12,000. We're not over budget.
Okay, but I'm talking about, so the
No
change.
No changes.
So there will be no change? Okay.
They're still going to have a $12,239 surplus.
Can we change the name of the title of the position to Pete? When we get a second
I wouldn't be
Pete?
opposed to that at all. Mr. Clemens?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is I had a chance to ride with Pete, and he does represent the township in assessing very well, and I don't think there's any question. The only thing is I would advocate on his behalf, and I know that tools have been looked at, but I can also tell you that when you get into administration, it's easy to side the to-do list on things like that, and you get distracted by the what's in front of you and what tends to be more pressing. But we can't expect people in the field to do great work if they don't have great tools. So my only encouragement would be, after watching him and just imagining what that struggle is like day in and day out, that we renew our effort to try to come up with a solution. Because I think there might be an initial outlay, but I think what we will recover in efficiency will well outweigh any potential expenditure there.
Just to give you a heads up, we just updated their phone with smartphone because he was currently using his own phone data. So now he has all the Google Maps and everything right on his phone. He can take the pictures, send it back, and so we did make it a little more efficient just last week alone. But we're continuing to look at stuff of how we can make it more efficient.
That's one of the first conversations I had with Mr. Matlow is equipment. What can we do technology-wise to streamline the job?
Every board member's saying it, so we gotta, you need to hammer it. We need-
I didn't say it.
Don't be sad, you.
The biggest thing with this job, the tools have not changed dramatically where the rest of the world has. It is a tape measure, it is a clipboard, it is a pencil, it is a camera permit, the base of it. What Pete is dealing with now, myself and Christine have done this well over a decade with those tools. There's other individuals that have done this for full career times of 30 and 40 years.
Yeah, I'd
It
like
is what
to
we
know what
have.
kind of tools you're talking about. I mean,
Just to research, see what's out there. Is there drones? Do we have to go out and, can you look from your computer with a certain, program that doesn't require somebody to go out in the field?
Well, one of the things too that we
No.
talked about, Ms. Tenberry, is I talked to Alan and his team about, if they had a tool out in the field where they're inputting the data while they're there, they don't have to take all this stuff, write it down, come back to the office and sit at the desk now and punch it all into a computer.
It's already
They-
in.
If they put it in this unit, their handheld that they've got, they can come back and they can just upload that right into the system.
yeah, I get that.
So, I mean, that's the streamlining, one of the biggest ones that they could do, is having that at their fingertips instead of all the manual processes to do that.
And-
I mean, we talked about laser equipment for measures and stuff like that as well, instead of a tape measure and a walking, half an acre or an acre,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Some of the problem has been that the software developers too, they are just now catching up, even though other areas across the industries, food industry, the food industry's all been this for forever. Retail's been this forever. Us, it's still pull, chug, and.
Well, like he said, a
roll.
laser tape measure. I watched Pete out there. I mean, he's got a lot of good tricks about hooking the tape to gut it, but if you had a laser and something that's accurate,
Yep.
I mean, that would definitely be something to make his job quicker.
How about 2 months, you come back with something to us with items?
You're not gonna see that until May. We have the role to get done right now, and we are in crunch.
Well, hurry up.
Yeah, we're trying. We've been trying these technical people for a number of years
All right,
to.
as
to get
quickly as possible, but by May, how's
Yeah,
that?
we'll try to get something up for May. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we'd
yeah.
really like to help you out.
Yeah,
right.
we're gonna start with a luncheon on Thursday. We may want yourself, Paul, or even Al to come to see that baseline, and we'll go from there. So
I
that's
look
where we're
for, I look for a motion.
To approve this, Pete,
Pete, to approve the Pete.
Craig's making it.
Craigie.
I'll make the motion to move Pete from part-time to, or temporary to part-time.
I support that as long as you put Pete Carey, because there's a lot of Pete's out there that might jump in and want the job. Pete Carey, yes, I second.
Okay, motion to support of Ms. Turnberry. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
All right.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Thank you.
Before we go, Teresa, would you please stand up?
Well, why don't you guys come on up here so
Yeah,
the
come on
public
up
can
here.
see you?
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah. Right up to the podium. That's the Pete. Right up here to the podium so the camera can see you. We can see you just fine. So this is Teresa Vitale and Pete Carey. Welcome
Nice to
aboard.
meet you.
And,
Welcome aboard.
and the policemen are back here to take your mugshots.
Fingerprints too?
Thank you for the opportunity, appreciate it. And we do.
Come up to the mic, Pete.
Well, okay. We really do enjoy what we do day to day. I enjoy seeing all the community and seeing the people. I also enjoy, you talked about adding to their taxes. I enjoy walking up to someone's home after I've looked at their backyard and saying, what year did you take the pool out? So that my view of this job is just to make it fair for everyone.
Absolutely.
So whatever's there, I mark down on my little sheets and do that and pass it on to this lovely lady who takes care and makes sure that everybody's treated fairly. And that's what we try to do. So that's what this guy taught me.
Good.
Okay, well, thank you, guys. Alan, thanks for all your hard work. to get us here, so.
Just a couple more things. In a couple of weeks, you're going to see me back here. We have 2 resolutions that need to be addressed. One is the poverty exemption policy. Thank you, Nancy, for bringing that to our attention. Because we had started that, but going back, I did an extensive review of a lot of things and found out quite a interesting things that are out there. As of where we are right now, we're in good standings, but we're going to make some additional tweaks that I think will help us down the road. The other is a resolution in regards to the property transfer affidavit. Bedford Township has not collected the late fee on this from the time this came into play. Under AMAR, we have to have that, a resolution stating that we don't proceed or pursue this fee. It's not uncommon, but it's something we have to have in place. One more thing I'm going to address tonight. This job is demanding every day, and it stays with me every day, 24/7, 365. I could not do this, and we would not be where we are right now if it wasn't for Christine Eichler, who has came in here when we had a number of individuals that were running away from the fire, and I'm very grateful for her, and I want to thank her. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it here tonight because I had an ice storm that I was in, and I didn't make it here on the opening tonight, and she was here ready to roll. We didn't have this in place 3 years ago. So basically, tag, she was it, and tag, she threw it back at me. So that's where we're at. We thank you, and we'll go forward, and we'll get back with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Item 9, comments from the public. Comments limited to 5 minutes for each individual. Come on up.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. I could make these comments tonight based on the fact that I'm a retired police officer, but that's not the reason I'm up here, and that's not the right that I claim. I could base it on the fact that I was a police officer before many police officers that work in Bedford Township even were born, but I'm not here, and I certainly have the right to base it on that. I don't base it on the fact that I'm a voter, even though I can certainly come up here and say that because you're elected officials, I can come up here and say what I'm going to say tonight. I can base it on the fact I'm a taxpayer in Bedford Township, but I'm not basing it on that at all. I'm coming here based on the right that I have as a citizen that lives in Bedford Township, and that alone. That means I speak for people that don't know their left hand from their right hand, because you represent everybody in this township, not just taxpayers, not just voters, but kids, everybody that lives in this township, you represent them. And so I stand here today based solely on that. Before you see a list of 56 officers who claimed hours in Bedford Township. There's an asterisk next to the people that were told to this township that they were the contract officers for 2018. If you look at the very back page, if it's stapled together, you'll see the last name there. I'm not going to say any officer's name tonight. This is not about officers. This is about the contract. That officer never logged any hours since June of 2017, and yet that officer was considered a contract officer in 2018. One officer and one officer alone logged about 56 hours over the 1,800 hours that's required by the contract. There was another officer who fell about 19 hours short. You'll see next to some of these people's names, you'll see a circle with a little C like a copyright. Those are hours that they listed on the contract summary as working the contract. The other hours, which are mostly a little bit more, like for example, on the first page, you'll see the second officer listed 813 on the contract, 820 was listed in this township. I'm not sure why that is and stuff, especially for contract people. I can understand it for non-contract people. So out of all the contract people, not one person even comes close to the 1,800 hours. The contract is very specific. 10 people assigned to Bedford Township to work 1,800 hours after we give them the 35 days. That's clear. That's not ambiguous. That's very clear. And that's why we asked for a specific contract stating these are the hours that are required. How is it possible that 46 other people who are not contract officers log hours in Bedford? Why can't we have 10 specific people assigned here logging hours so that we can determine overtime? Why should there be any overtime if you're working, if they don't make 1,800 hours? Why is it that we can't have 10 people assigned here so that you know who they are, so we can know the 35 days that we give them, and that we have a system that's easily to follow? The most that they should have on here is maybe 14 names of people that work the contract. I can understand people that leave during the year for some other reason, whether they get another job or they go to a different area in a sheriff's department. But I can't understand why you have 56 people logging hours in Bedford Township. There's no way you can keep track of the 35 days. Not even close. Can't keep track of overtime. Who's working down here? I have no clue. That's distressing to me. That's the easy part. Now comes the hard part. It looks like I'm outnumbered here tonight, but I'm not. Because when you speak the truth, I'm surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. So I stand here tonight knowing that I'm not standing alone.
Well, you got a minute, so you better.
I know. 2,170.5 hours on patrol last year were logged by officers in this township. 2,170 hours were logged. Not one single traffic citation. That costs us $93,331.50. That's at $43. That's not even the cents that's hooked onto that. That's unacceptable. I say that not as a retired police officer. I say it not as a voter, not as a taxpayer, but as a citizen that lives in this township. These roads are not safe when you can ride around 2,100 hours and not write a single traffic ticket. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public?
Hi, Ron Hoskins, 7187 Maplewood Drive here in Temperance. I'm here to...
You said, what was your last name?
Hoskins.
Hoskins?
Yeah, Hoskins. I'm here to talk about the Knox box. I got some experience with it. It's a fabulous system. It's a great system. I fully support it. I think from watching the last board meeting, there were a few things that were not discussed education-wise. The security of the Knox box. I've been in the fire business since 1988. I've never seen a Knox box broke into. I've never seen one torn off a wall. I've had one where someone tried and left their screwdriver that broke off, which hampered us trying to get into Knox box. But the thing with the Knox box that the public may not know, or business owners actually, you can't just go out and buy the Knox box. The Knox boxes are key specific for the municipality that has them. So the key for the Knox boxes that would be put up on businesses, only Bedford Fire Department would have them. Monroe wouldn't have them. No one else in the county, no one in the area would have that key. So as far as security, there's only so many keys whatever Bedford Fire decides to have. They have to be ordered through the fire inspector. There's numbers that got to coincide with the Knox box company. So you have that security. The other thing with the Knox box, you can also put tampered. Business owners are worried about someone breaking in, tampering. There's tamper switches that can be put installed inside the Knox box, hooked up to their burglar alarm. So they know if someone's trying to break in. I was always told, and I don't know if this is how it's going down, I've heard, I'm sure as far as everybody here, different things. What I've heard on the street, I don't like. I was always told you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. Now, the gentleman that spoke the last board meeting, talking about the authority having jurisdiction, about retro, like the Knox boxes being put on buildings that are retro, that's not the norm. The way I would look at it is you present it to the business owner and say, hey, we got this Knox box. We would really appreciate you putting it on. We're not going to force you, but these are the benefits. We're not going to have to smash a door down, break a window. We're not going to have to do that. You have a sprinkler head, froze, broke, you got water going all over your business. We can get in with the key, turn off the water, save you thousands of dollars in damage for your inventory. If you have a business that you're getting fire alarms to all the time, they don't have a Knox box, then you would be within your right to say, we need a Knox box there. But I think it goes back to the presentation and education to the business owners on the benefits of having this system. And like I said, it's a great system.
Then just one more thing, totally on the police side. I live on Maplewood Drive, speed limit's 25. I've been asking for years for having a patrol officer just sit and do radar. I had one officer do that just before school, parked across from my house, parked at Azalea in Maplewood. Within 2 minutes, nailed the guy doing 43 down to 25. They used Maplewood as a shortcut to go from Stearns to Smith. Came back, actually within 25 minutes, he nailed 2 people doing over 40 in a 25. And I know I've had people doing 50, 55 down that street. So since we're paying for police protection, I would really appreciate an officer going out there. Even if they just sit there and do the reports being seen, that's going to deter.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Moore, County Commissioner Moore, do you want to give a quick county update while you're here?
Thank you for having me. Greg Moore, 1327 West Temperance Road. Just came from my Board of Commissioners meeting, and there's a few things going on, but the biggest takeaway that we had, we've been working with Director Pierce of the Road Commission for the last couple months now, and he did officially inform us tonight that he's going to terminate the contract with MDOT October 1st, which would give us 7 to 10 more trucks off of 75, 275, and 23, put them back in the county. We're looking at some options with Representative Shepherd and Senator Dale Zorn on how we can transition out of that. Obviously, we have, I say we, but the Road Commission has no obligation to stay in that contract, but we'd like to transition as smoothly as possible. He's made it clear that those additional 7 to 10 trucks will obviously transfer down here as well. There's some economic issues going on in the city of Monroe. We talked to a developer today that's looking at buying some county property, some city property where the old fire station was, and possibly putting up a 50-unit apartment and condo complex there. With that being said, we'd have to convert 2nd Street, the portion between the courthouse and the sheriff's office, into possible parking, so we'd shut down 2nd Street. But those are just in the very beginning stages. We'll take action on that probably at our next meeting. We had our organizational meeting on January 8th. We reelected Henry Levens as the chair. I was elected as the vice chair, so although I do represent every resident in Monroe County, it is nice to have both representative who's representing Lambertville and myself representing Temperance in leadership positions on the county board, to let you guys know that Bedford Township has strong representation on the Board of Commissioners. That's all I have right now. Just wanted to give you a quick update. If you have any questions for me, I'll hang on.
Anybody have any
after.
questions? Ms. Tinnery?
Yes, you just said we have strong representation on the board. What is your definition of community policing? I realize the sheriff is separately elected, but the county administrator handles the funds. What can you help me with community policing and not giving tickets, but just being friends with everybody? I don't know. To me, that's my definition of community policing, but.
Sure. Well, the Board of Commissioner does preside over the sheriff's budget. We do allot him that money. It takes up about 42% of our budget right now, public safety. Well, public safety is about 50%, but 42% goes to the sheriff's office. Once that money does leave our hands, or it's appropriated to him, he does what he wants to do with it. He's a duly elected official. We are in communication with the sheriff with procedures and things that do affect the county. We've had this discussion with Sheriff Malone a few times, and he said, I'd be more than happy to talk to the board, and if they want to change in how we police, we can do that. Now, that's what he's told me multiple times when I've sat down with him on that. I think each local municipality or each neighborhood is probably a little different. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all for community policing. Sometimes it's, like this gentleman said, it's the visual presence. Sometimes it's actively ticketing. Sometimes it's first response times that might weigh a little bit heavier, but that would ultimately be up to the sheriff and how he runs his department.
Well, would you, since you're a resident of Bedford, and since I personally have been getting a totally opposite opinion of him being willing to come and sit and talk to the board, or any member of the board, would you be willing to sit in on that?
Oh, absolutely, I
as
could
our
facilitate that meeting.
representative? Okay.
Yeah, and I think visibility is very important. That's probably, to me, now, I'm not a sheriff, I'm not a police deputy or police officer, but visibility seems to be one of the largest deterrents, and I think, that's why we've allotted for 7 more sheriff deputies over the last 2 years. We're trying to fund 4 or 5 more. The biggest issue we're having right now is just filling those spots. You have 500 graduates coming out in the state of Michigan, and we get maybe 150 of them. They go some other place. So we're trying to craft our packages as well, too, that are attractive for them to keep them here and fill those spots so we can get bodies and cars out on the road.
My suggestion, we give $1 million, we have our own car. So my suggestion is the reason they're going other places is because they want to do the job. They want to be out there policing and saving lives and protecting people, and not just being friends in the community.
Sure.
So,
Well, very well could be. Thank you.
thank you.
Anything else for
Can you
me?
give us a quick update on the DTE situation?
Well, we had a countywide meeting that included everyone from Superintendent ISD, Frenchtown Township Supervisor, obviously our CFO, Michael Pasonic, obviously the city manager and the mayor. At the very last time that we talked, they said, well, we'll present you with what we think that property and parcel and that building is worth. That's been 3 weeks. We haven't heard anything back. They have until May to produce that, or we just go to a tax tribunal. We really, truly feel that it would be in our best interest to work something out before we get to that tax tribunal. Historically, that tax tribunal does side, I don't want to say side with the corporations, but historically, if you look at the tax reductions that those larger corporations have asked for, they usually do get them, which if they get their 58% reduction would hit the county at $27 million. My budget would only be affected by about $3 million. 25% of the city budget would be affected. And then you have all kinds of senior services and things like that would be affected. So we're really trying to negotiate something before that deadline in May. But as of right now, I don't have anything within the last 3 weeks for you. But I am working on that. I'm included in those meetings.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Thanks for being here, appreciate it. Okay, any comments from Township Board members? Mr. Clemens?
I have no comments. I wanted to follow up. Did you have a chance to check on our township insurance as it relates to non-employees in vehicles and where we stand on that? If we could get an
It's
update
funny,
on that.
I was on the phone, and Ms. Jin was on the phone at the same time with the insurance lady about Knox boxes and about the insurance. She goes, I'm on the other line right now with Nancy Jin. So yeah, we are covered as long as we don't put them in a life-threatening situation.
Okay.
Which, like, would be, if they're doing a ride-along with the fire department, they sign a waiver. If they're doing a ride-along with the police, they sign a waiver. So we, going in and assessing, is not putting them, we're not doing police work or any, you know what I mean? We're just,
Got it.
We are covered.
so we are covered.
Perfect. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Montree. Try, yeah, Mr. Montree.
Why don't you
I'm
try?
getting there. I'll get
Try,
there.
just try,
Try.
just try.
I have nothing.
Okay. Ms. Tinberry?
Yeah, I have something.
Okay.
First of all, my first thing is, before I forget, I just want to thank Craig, applaud him for being the new member on the board, and you ask so many good questions. I mean, they're questions that, someone like Paul who's been here 50?
Forever. yeah.
Forever, many years. I mean, they may seem repetitive to him, and I can understand that, but he never challenges it. He lets Craig, and all of us, let Craig have his questions, and I'm just thankful that he's interested, he's willing to learn, he wants to do the best for the public, or else he'd just sit there mute and wouldn't say anything. So I'm just excited that he's asking questions and engaging and wanting to know. So
Amen to that.
I appreciate that, yeah. Yeah. Even though sometimes I'm sitting here thinking, geez, the meeting's gonna last forever if Craig doesn't know.
My meetings are the
I'm kidding.
fastest meetings.
Yeah, I know, you're Superman. And then I'm gonna just say, these are facts, these numbers, it's just amazing to me that someone in the public would put the time and effort into this kind of a well, it's hand done, it's not computerized, but it's the facts. It's facts. How can we miss that? And I know you said, okay, they just want to do community policing. Do we just want them to do community policing? I want this meeting with the sheriff and our county representatives, because something's wrong with this. When we pay $1 million and we get community policing, I talked to several people in law enforcement, and you know what they say community policing is? Community policing is when someone has blight and you go out and talk to them and you try to get them to clean up the blight, and then you go back and you say, oh, you're doing a good job. I mean, that's community policing, trying to be friendly with everyone. And to me, that's not what, why are we friendly with criminals? Why are we friendly with people who are breaking the law? This gentleman says that they're speeding down his street. I'm sure he has children on his street that could get run over, you know, accidentally, but still, the damage is done. I'm sorry, but, and twice, people have run the red light right in front of me on Dean and Secor. And yeah, I understand there's not a policeman there every single time something goes wrong, but if they're out there looking for people instead of just doing community policing, then maybe they would catch some of these people. I just think this is abominable that we are paying this kind of money for very little, quote, policing. And maybe after the meeting, I know TC's been involved in policing. I don't know, maybe he could explain to me what community policing is, because no true policeman has been able to tell me exactly what community policing is. I just think, I, for one, as a taxpayer, am not paying for community policing. I want to see some results, and I want to see some people have to pay ticket. You know, our library is missing out by not getting the money from penal fines. I mean, do we not care about that? Our revenue, it gets part of that money too. Do we not care about that? That, you know, we pay $1 million out, we get nothing back in. I'm very upset. I admit it, but I can't help the fact that it just doesn't make sense to me, and I think we're doing a disservice to our citizens. And to say, well, the sheriff doesn't want to do anything but community policing, well then, why are we paying him money? Sorry, I'm just starting to repeat myself, so.
Are you done?
Thank you for letting me finish.
I didn't say a word.
But I know, I'm proud of you. I don't know what.
Mr. Steiner?
Oh.
In other words, you're done, huh?
Yeah, I know. At least he didn't gavel me.
Hey, you're done.
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you done?
I am done, thank you. Gentleman, you're a gentleman.
Somebody's got to be.
Yeah.
I don't have much tonight, except for the fact that, just want to say, apologize, I missed the last 2 meetings. Unfortunately, I was unexpectedly sent out of the country. So I was out 2 different times for a total of 21 days. So I did get to come home for Christmas, and I didn't get to wish everybody to have a Merry Christmas, and didn't get to tell everybody to have a Happy New Year. Hopefully, everybody had both. And hopefully I'm staying stateside for some time, and I think with some new assignments with my full-time job that's probably going to happen, but it could be various places in the U.S. instead. Again, to Mary Lindsay, great job on her award this evening. She's not here now, but just want to say again, she deserves it. She's worked hard for her award, and she really has been an integral part of Bedford Township for safety. That's all.
Mr. Francis?
2 things. One, just to notify the board, which we agreed to do, my department has a budget for seasonal help that is $3,600 in the Treasurer's Department and $14,400 in the Sewer Department. That's a total of $18,000. We have asked a young lady to come on staff on a seasonal basis. Her name is Nicole Knapp. She'll be starting Monday morning at the rate of $14.79 per hour, all the other ones are. I anticipate that she might work 550-some hours a year. At that rate, it's, like $8,200, well under the budgeted amount. This is a new thing. It's only on an as-needed basis. We have some hot days every month, and we put them on a calendar and asked her, and she's agreed to do that. She lives in Bedford Township, obviously, and just so that you're informed, and maybe we can have her here some time in the future.
Thank you, I appreciate
The
that.
second thing is about the community policing idea. Well, two things. One, on Logan's analysis, we've seen a lot of that before, and I don't doubt the numbers at all. He's an honest man. He concerns about his township as all of us do. To me, it's a philosophical thing that we might want to tweak a bit. We asked the sheriff before, and he said, yeah, if you want us to write tickets, we'll write tickets. Well, maybe now's the time to take that step and adjust it a little bit. It's within the contract that we can do that. Says it right in the writing. We had that in there. Maybe we need to rethink that and look at that, because I think that's important also. The numbers on here, pardon?
I'm not so sure he meant that when he said it.
Well, it is in writing in the contract that we both signed. But, it's a contract. He's providing a service for a fee. If we're unhappy with that, we'll talk about it with him, if that's what we want to do. As far as the numbers showing that there's, 56 people or however many are on that that worked in the township, the contract allows the sheriff to substitute if the officers that are assigned and named as a contract, they bid for that position. If they're not available for whatever reason, the sheriff by contract is allowed to substitute people for that. That's why you have a whole bunch of people at log time in Bedford. We have gotten the service that we're paying for. It just doesn't show when you look at it by individual people. When you take them as a total, it does. But that's neither here nor there. We need to rethink that and maybe do something about that, because I agree with Logan on it. That's all I have.
Okay, Ms. Hirschberger?
Craig, did you have?
He's got something he wants to say.
Yeah, I was just going,
Do you want
yeah.
Oh, don't
Pretty
mind.
much,
Go ahead.
right after I passed it, I thought of, I just wanted to commend the supervisor and county commissioner, because I know they were both out on Saturday night, but just for, I can't remember a time where the entire community being so positive and seeing results from what you're constantly told tax money goes toward, of having their roads and neighborhoods cleared when you're having a snowstorm like that. And I just think it needs to be commended for all the work, for the organization and all of that. I don't know if I stopped hearing people talk about it on Sunday of, I live in a neighborhood and my neighborhood got plowed, just people being happy about it. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Ms. Hirschberger?
Just a couple things. Wanted to congratulate Mary Lindsay again. She's a great deputy, a great person. Remind folks that the meetings will resume back on the first and third Tuesdays in February, so our next meeting will be February 5th. And then I will be bringing a resolution, I don't know if it'll be to the next agenda or the one following, but to raise the amount of our IFT fee. Right now, the amount we charge does not cover even the publications, alone the attorney fees when I have to submit those. So I would like to at least raise it just to cover, not to make any money on it or anything for the township, but just cover our fees, because right now, I think the last one I looked at, we had to pay $300. Their fee did not cover it. It was $300 short. So I'll be bringing that back to the board for approval. And that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Craig, for the comments. But, yeah, I was out plowing. I did pick up Mr. Moore. We went out for 6-8 hours. I tried to fill in as much as I could personally on my end when I didn't have a driver. But we did. We cleared all the subdivision roads within 9 hours. they were clear before the main roads were cleared. And I think we can keep up with it too. I mean, continuously, I do see in the future, I would like for us to, you know, I don't know if there's a bidding site out there that we could look at, but if we could acquire along the road a few more trucks with plows, we could do it all seasonally ourselves. But right now, we are paying $75 an hour for Stone Cove. They did the Lambertville side, and we took care of the Temperance side. It is a lot of work preparing for it because I don't know how these guys judge snow. You can ask everybody in the office. I ask everybody, what do you think? What do you think? It's tough figuring out if you're going to get the 5 inches or not, because if I pull the trigger on these guys, you know, and they only get an inch, now it's like, you know, so. But it did work out well. I did get Stone Cove out there a little too early. I wish they would have started about 4, but they got out there about 2:30, and they were all cleared, you know, within a reasonable time before it got too packed down. We will get better. We have it mapped out pretty good now to where we only hit the public roads. We don't hit the private ones, and now we got people that start on the south end, north end, and in the middle, and it worked out well. So I wanted to show everybody this book. Damon Cecil continues to just work his tail off in the ordinance department to be more transparent, get more information out. So he's made these Your Guide to Safety book for everyone over 55 and over should know. They go to a lot of association meetings. They'll start handing these out. A lot of really good information on here about health and phone numbers and emergency situations. But it's a really good book if you guys want to take a look at it. Business Summit was a huge success that the Lewis Avenue Corridor Committee put on. We were maxed out. We had to stop accepting people at 80, and 100 ended up showing up. So, but we do need a bigger venue, and people loved it. I mean, the information Karen Kincaid gave out, everybody was calling, wanted a copy of it, wanted the information. But it was a really good informational piece. I mean, a lot of people gave a lot of positive feed on it. So we're going to do it, I think, twice a year going forward. I'm not sure when the next one will be. And I wanted to touch on roads a little bit. Mr. Paul Francis and I sit on the roads committee, and it's going to be a really good year. I was super impressed with the road commission. Nancy, you'll be very happy. And I'm extremely happy that they're getting rid of that contract because our plowing will get even better. But they came out with a 5-year road asset plan. And now Manikin Smith is.
It's not new.
Familiar ring to it?
No,
It's
but
not new.
it's not new, but they haven't had one in a long time.
No, I know, but
And you've
when I
been
was there,
saying it
they
for
had
years. So now they have one, and we're integrating ours with theirs, so we're on the same page. It shows how much money they're gonna spend on our road system for the next 5 years, and I think it was 6.5 million that they're gonna be spending in our road system. Our budget is looking really good. We're looking at $1 million a year. So, I mean, we're looking at, you know, $2.5 to $3 million a year, not including grants, that's gonna be going into our road system. We've pretty much covered the whole township. The roundabout, we had a meeting about that this morning. Tweaked it a little bit more. He came with a concept. The road commission was concerned with it, so they're tweaking a little bit more. They're trying to lobby a little bit more funds. I think the project is down to, it was 1.1, now they're gonna be closer to under the $1 million mark. Now we're finding out exactly how much the road commission is willing to put into the project, and then what our share would be, and then we'll bring it to you guys. So they're still going back and forth. This is, you know, new to the area, so we want it to be right.
Out of that $1,600,000 is funded through a grant that needs to be spent by the year 2020, or we lose it.
But we need to accept it way before that.
Oh, I know, but we need to move forward on that and come to a final decision, and I think we ought to do that. We're a long way from where we were, and I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of different things. I mean, today we talked about, instead of just concreting the whole area, you know, we could save some money by possibly coming up with something from beautification. There's a water line that has to be moved. That's $45,000. We can take that $45,000 out of the water fund that we have. So I mean, there's some different things that we can do that we're looking at to make sure it's, you know, an accurate number that this board has to vote on. Main roads that are looking to be done, Whiteford Center, I know I've heard a lot of people every year talking about that. That project there's a lot to it. It's roughly a $900,000 project. So the road commission's gonna be funding that, I believe, 100%. Mr. Francis, right? Close to it.
Yeah.
Crab Road in between in between Erie and Samaria, that will be done. They wanted to redo the culverts. I went out there, looked at the culverts, not that I'm a professional, but I just questioned them on it. Why do we have to fix these culverts? Because they wanted to widen the road in those areas. And it was gonna hold us up a year and cost us another $120,000. And just after pushing them a little bit, the road commission decided that we don't have to fix the culverts. So we're gonna be able to get that road done this year. The other road I'm pushing for, and I think we can get it done in our budget, is Douglas Road in between Rauch and Samaria. That's a rough one, and that'll finish that stretch. Only issue is, we're gonna be having another meeting with the road commission. They are gonna be doing some widening in between Douglas and Jackman. Right, Paul? They're gonna be doing some ditching and doing 2-foot widening, 2 to 3 foot widening on each side.
What road?
Stearns Road in between Douglas and Jackman. Only thing that I'm asking is, the year that they're gonna be doing Stearns Road, they're gonna be doing HMA overlay. My question would be, is that the time to talk about a turn lane in between Summerfield and Secor, instead of just a 2-foot widening there? We're really trying, going forward, if a road butts up to a dirt road, I want it paved 75 feet on the dirt road, so people aren't pushing the rocks in the street and tearing it up. We're really trying to aim for 2-foot wider shoulders. So you see these stone shoulders everywhere. They become craters, and it just rips the road apart. So we're really trying to budget for that. So if we do go for something like that, instead of doing Douglas, we could, potentially pull Douglas off instead of, but we're looking at that. I mean, we have to make these roads.
Don't we get to vote on this?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, these are some of the options that we're coming up with.
Absolutely.
But other than that, Mary Lindsay,
Supervisor?
congratulations.
Just want to make one comment about your roundabout, the idea there. Just wanted everybody to know, they're not that bad, they really aren't. Because spending 21 days in the UK, driving on the left side, going the wrong way on a roundabout, that's a little bit confusing.
So if anybody has anything further, no, we stand adjourned.